What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Moving with Life. Andy here, and it's Tuesday. The week is starting to roll a little bit. I feel like it's just been one continuous flow, and it's like there's a little bit of sleep involved, and then the next day starts, and then whatever the tasks are, how do I say this better? Whatever the tasks are for the day, just the only time there is to get them done, literally. And as I was trying to prep for this episode today, it made me, I guess, the tasks lately, because it's again gym competitions or homework, tests, exams, going to class, taking notes for, obviously for the exams, family time, managing those things. One thing you reminded me of, and it's somewhat on the topic of discipline, and things are changing. The wave is turning. I feel like I could argue, given the influencers and the people that I either watch or listen to on a daily basis. But even beyond like the discipline, like a Jocko type, consistency is another thing. And over time, especially if, like, let's just say this is your first time joining me on the episode, you can go back now and see that this started in 2017, and you can kind of go back and see how it's evolved to what it is now. And so, rather than discipline having a bad reputation, because again, I think the tide is turning. The tide has turned. There's just, and with I would say with the power that the internet does have and so on, a lot of good in that respect is happening. And so for me, I had to think about, well, how, like, because I will admit, like, I suck at discipline. I at least from my angle, from my perspective, when I think about my goals, and when I think about my goals versus, I do have my achievements, and I'm glad I have these experiences, but I am primarily focused on, okay, what's the next thing. And I'm not hyper focused all the time, like every single time. If there's family time, I really try to put my phone down. I've talked about that. If there's an event, gym competition, it's like, cool. I literally put my phone away. I'm this, I got to snap some pictures from this past weekend, and so it's like, what am I disciplined about? What has gotten me to here? And what I came up with for today was process improvement. Generally, whether it's my schedule for the day, whether it's coming up with themes for the podcast and trying to bring it back and bring my thoughts and my current experiences in real time, bring them back to the podcast to then record today and come up with a script, so at least I can have some type of order, because I will blabber on, and when I've had guests in the past, as if you've seen those episodes, where, like, it's cool to go off in tangents, and it's cool to do things, but for me, the process of, depending on the goal, that's always been my biggest, I guess that's been my biggest form of discipline. And again, 2017, it's not quite 10 years ago, it's almost 9, but the podcast, I started this podcast January of 2017, I believe. And so it's been a long time, and I've said it before, where there's still a little something, there's a little itch in me that I want to put my thoughts down on this and be like, hey, like, this helped me. And if there's one person it could help in the future, or something just sticks out, it's like, okay, cool, like, that's what's worked for me, and hopefully it works for you. And a simple example, tying back in, like, the podcast itself, is I've tried to batch, and I'm not good at it. I've tried to do only guesting, and even from that, it evolved, because sometimes, like, when I have these thoughts or ideas for, like, an episode like today or like yesterday, I feel like I don't know in that moment how to slow my thoughts down, in a sense, to then either stay on a theme or not, then go on for 3 hours, but then feel tired at the end, right? I feel like, okay, I've given you my energy, I've given you my thoughts, But okay, I need a break. I think that's what happened with when I tried batching. I've tried batching. I'll record 4 or 5 episodes in a day, and some of them are long, some of them aren't. And I've let that even go by, where I don't give myself a time restriction over a certain time or under a certain time. I used to think, oh, maybe this would be optimum. Oh, if I can keep it to 20 minutes, this will work. This will work good. If I keep it to 30 minutes, I think we'll be fine. But then there's that one episode where I'm like, I do 20 minutes here and there, and then there's one where like the theme or the topic just, I have so much to say about it from my perspective that I go for 45 minutes, and now I'm tired. And now I don't even want to edit. I don't even want to upload it to my laptop so I can then put it out to be listened to and watched. And so that's been part of my system of my process of improvement. So right now it's been, okay, here's a theme. What's the new simple way of me being successful at uploading? Because right now the goal is to upload an episode. Okay, how can I do that to where I don't wear myself out? It's still something that's relevant that I can actually talk about for 10, 15 minutes, however long. And given that family time is a priority, sports, whatever season we're in, that has a priority. School is pretty much the top of the list because school is going to determine a big chunk of the future that I want for not only me but my family and my closest loved ones. All these things affect it. Again, exams, grades, like right now in my mind, they do affect these things. So I think that's been the constant angle of discipline that I've had lately. And do I want to get working out? Yes. I literally, I tweak my back, so it's like, okay, so I'm still managing that and trying to figure out, okay, if these things made me tweak my back, like, okay, what's an even simpler movement? What's even a simpler thing I can do that gets my heart rate up, but won't make me feel like I can't, like, twist and move because, my back gets, I have a flare up in my back and I'm not incapacitated completely, but I just feel restricted, and it's okay. That's another idea of my process improvement, tying back to discipline, and where sometimes I might feel complacent, but if I can show you the last 10 years of whether it's my investing, whether it's the podcast, going back to school now and figuring out, okay, I did this for the first test. How did it go? Okay, it worked okay, but can I do better? Is there something is there something I can leave out to then have a new way, a new study tactic, a new study habit? What works, and whether it's being creative or something that might affect your future in those lights, in those respects, in those aspects. That's the theme for today. That's what I saw and I thought was best to bring for today. As we head into, God willing, tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll see what tomorrow will bring. But I'm not even worried about that because, like, okay, how can I process and improve the things that I have to do today? I do want to say this, and then we're gonna wrap up for the day. Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty." First thing I thought about when the verse said hasty, I think of a hasty ambush. Sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes you're on a patrol and your team leader gives a sign for a hasty ambush, and you go do it very fast. There's a method to the madness, but it's very fast. It's hasty. It's literally hasty. That is how I've learned about that term itself. And so when I read the verse, I said, "Oh, I like that." The plans of the diligent, and it's not saying the plans will be perfect. It's not saying the plans won't change. It's not saying do everything off the cuff. Some things call for doing things off the cuff. But when it comes to, I would say, a lot of the themes that I've brought to the podcast, or things that me and my friends have talked about in previous episodes, it all goes back to some sort of discipline, some sort of aimed direction, some sort of direction to aim for, some sort of goal, some sort of end state to try to reach. To wrap up, the thought I can leave you with that I used quite a bit back when I first started the podcast. But one of the arguments I remember making, I'd have to filter through videos, and frankly, I'm not going to do that. It's going to take a lot of bandwidth. That's going to take away from, okay, what I need to do the rest of the day, and then also upload this episode so it's up so you can see it. But there was a conversation I'm pretty sure me and Brian had where I made a statement along the lines of, imagine if we just got 1% better every day. And maybe one day you have to go back to, if you go ahead 5 days in a row, like, man, you've made some progress. Like, okay, I feel like I've built something. And then something happens that's not your fault. That's not, you couldn't account for. And so then you get 2% back, but you still gain that 3%. And then you do another 5. And then something gets in your way, now you're back 1%. But now you're up 4 plus 2, 6. Now you're up 6%. I think that's math, roughly. Either way, the point is, if there's any encouragement from today's episode, from this quick talk of what discipline has looked to me in the long term, is just the simple of like, okay, how can I make this process better? Studying, parenting, hobby, teaching, whatever that is. How can I make that process better for either the person that learns from me, for me to teach, or a goal that I have? And so there's many people that have their own version of this, their own version of being consistent and being disciplined. So I'm just trying to add to that by saying sometimes the consistency is trying to see how you can do that thing better. So with that, keep moving with life, and I hope to see you tomorrow.